Yeah, I feel like this is I can't remember the guy's name. Do you ever see that Joe Rogan podcast with the guy in the ghillie suit? Yeah, I feel like this is the my version of that episode. Exactly. Yeah, man, how you doing? It's exciting
Oh,
to
good.
have you on. You're at the what are you on the what do you say in your story? You're on the 100th floor in St. Pete, in the penthouse?
Well, I thought I was 22, but then I realized they started skipping the 13th floor, so I think I'm actually like 21.
Wow.
But you got to view the ocean right here.
Yeah, everybody knows you're not a successful online entrepreneur unless you have a penthouse. So
If it's not if it's not a penthouse, it's a peasant house.
yes, exactly. I think that's a good message for the viewers in the strive for. But yeah, let's
That's right.
yeah, like you said, it's been a long time coming, right? So let's dive into some stuff and sort of I don't know where should we start? How we met? How you just ended up
Man.
randomly in the back of my car one day, and I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off the top because it helps explain the rest of it. But the short version is I'm moving to Florida to transform my life. And before that, I was like living in a cartel invested ghetto, making $2.90 an hour and just trying to make it work. And then I met a really popular online entrepreneur in the space, and I just said, "Hey, I want to make you rich. I want to do whatever it takes." And so he invited me to move in with him and work for him in Tampa, Florida. And I was there with two big entrepreneurs. One of them, Michael knew, which was this other guy. And so I knew one of the roommates, and then Michael knew the other roommate that he met in an event, and they're both making 200 to 400K a month. And basically, the live-in dating coach of one of the guys there introduced me to Michael. And basically, he said, "Hey, dude, there's this guy you gotta meet. Like, he knows about because Ahmad and I were talking about like spiritual stuff, esoteric stuff, and like practices and books. And he's like, dude, you gotta meet this guy named Michael. Like, I met him at a Jason Capital event, and he's so freaking wild, and he's connected to this like ancient lineage that you got to hear more about. And there's like this class that's coming up that would completely transform your life on the inside out." And then so yeah, he handed me a phone, and you were on the phone. I think that's how it happened. And we chatted for like a minute, and then he's like, "Yeah, okay, Michael, come over." And then I think either you came over that day or later.
Yeah, I was there. I ended up in Tampa, and then I don't because we sort of crossed paths in Arizona, but I don't think we talked at all in Arizona,
Well, yeah,
right?
Copy Accelerator. That was right when I met
Yeah,
my guy.
that was in Scottsdale, right? And then yeah, it's funny how that came together because that's how I met Ahmad, right? I met Ahmad at a marketing event in Jason, then we kind of connected through a marketing event as well. Then it all converged in Tampa at the house at the time. Yeah, that was cool. So I remember I show up to the house. I don't know how long Ahmad was there though, and everyone was working and stuff. And we're like, let's go get lunch. And then I think you're in the kitchen. You're like, oh, can I come? I'm like, yeah, sure, like right. And
Yeah, I don't know why
I
you try to go without me. You weren't.
inviting strangers to lunch. But yeah, I remember it was funny because it's just funny to see kind of where we met and like where everything is now. And that's what is that now? Almost 3 years ago, about.
3 years. Yeah, that's crazy. And I just remember
I remember you were in the
seeing
back of
you.
my car. You're sitting in the back of the car. We're driving to this restaurant in Tampa, and you're just like, oh, like Ahmad and I are talking about the mystery school stuff and the spiritual teachings and all that. You're like, oh, that sounds interesting. And you had a bit of a background. You're explaining like from your grandma, so you had a bit of experience with it growing up. And then what do we do? I remember we got like burgers or something,
Yeah.
and you thought it was like the coolest thing. And then you showed up and got the life activation, got the first healing, and then you know, I always like to say, I mean, Christian is somebody who just dives right in. It's like whatever he does, he just fully commits. Even if he doesn't understand it at first, he just does it to a T. And that's why, I think you're a really good example of somebody who gets like incredible results because of that. You don't get in your own way. You don't slow yourself down, and you do things 100%, 100%. Right?
Yeah, that was really good timing to just like start a new job and, you know, be around people that were successful, then to meet you and you're really successful as well. And just to, see your car and see you spending money, it was like all foreign to me. And then for you to invite me to get a life activation, And I just knew in my gut that I didn't know what that meant or what it was. I just said, I'm 100% in.
Yeah, it's funny. I had no expectation because I remember I was like, well, if you want it, just like show up to my place in Orlando. I think it was within like a few days of that. I was like, yeah, just come to my place in Orlando and then we'll like figure it out. And you're like, okay. I think that's been really cool because you just say yes to stuff and it just make it work, right? Do you want to sort of give, I don't know, have you ever talked about kind of, I know you've talked about like Mexico and stuff and you had your Costco job and stuff like that, but do people actually, do they understand kind of your commitment from when you were at CA, you met everybody there, and then like driving across country and like really, I think it's always easy to see people like where they are now without understanding of like really their commitment and their sacrifices and like
I mean, yeah, some of the commitments was I just felt lost and alone working at Costco and trying to become successful and just be happy. And so when I met my first mentor, Brandon, and I, followed him to Mexico and started working for him for free in exchange, he'd review my copy for my $2.90 an hour job. I just went all in. I was like, look, if somebody just gives me a chance and just sees me and just like lays out a formula for me to be successful, action has never been the problem. It's just been all my BS and self sabotage and feeling lost and not knowing what to do. And so, I mean, crushed in Mexico for 6 months, like worked my way up to approaching that guy, that marketing guy, and getting a job with him. And then just went all in with that. And, literally the first week I started, we're in like a gated community, exotic cars out front, and we're kicking the soccer ball around the room. And like, I broke the chandelier my first day, like literally bouncing it off the walls. Like it was just a entrepreneur house. I just like taking ruthless action with my career combined with the daily spiritual work that I got from the class Kabbalah completely transformed my life from the inside out. Like,
but what about when
and
you drove cross country, like you just went all in. You drove cross country with that van that was like basically falling apart, right? Like it didn't make sense. You had bills, you had all these things. Like it didn't logically make sense to you, but you're like, I feel like you ever said it before, you're like, I feel like I'm supposed to do this thing. And you follow your gut and intuition. And that's led to like, meeting who you're working with, meeting me, aligning with all these things. And now, it's a combination of finding the right system, the right people, and just ruthless action, right? Because that's something you've always been great at is like, no matter what situation you're in, it's like, okay, what's the best like, how much can I do and like more action, right? So regardless of I think when somebody's stuck, it's like, just take any action, move forward, go work out, go read a book, go do something. Because that's always going to be better than just completely doing nothing and just sitting there and just kind of wallowing in our crap.
the reason why I said yes to everything was because I watched that movie Yes Man by Jim Carrey. And then so when I met you and then the other people, they just I just started saying yes to everything. And I thought I had to be like an entrepreneur and just like hustle it out and and like eat shit and just you still have to work really hard, but you don't have to isolate and talk to nobody. You have to say no to everything. Well, guess what? When I started saying yes to everything, but I'm surrounded by the right people, that's when all the magic happened.
Yeah, right. But it's using your discernment to be able to. That's funny. You never told me that. It's funny that you watched the movie. Apparently, it worked, right? Yeah. There's always key moments in somebody's life where they just kind of say screw it and start doing those things, and it just opens up so much more potential. Yeah, I remember you had your old beat up van. I think your Airbnb, and you were just committed. All you had, like, you basically had nothing. You just had work ethic. That was it. You didn't have any money. You didn't have anything. You had a work ethic, and you had a group of guys and the team you were working with. And it was quickly, I saw you get up to, you're quickly making money, quickly moving to a new place. You bought your super sick, amazing Subaru that all the women love. But yeah, I think why you progress so quickly is because the commitment. A lot of people get when they're trying something, when something new is presented, right? There's a thing, it's like, if you're stuck at this level and you want to go up to this level is going to be completely different. So, and to have clarity on this level, you have to go up to this level, kind of have a bird's eye view and say, okay, that's how I do this, right? But the thing is, people stay stuck because it's like they want the next level to agree with their current level and it just doesn't, right? So kind of, all our conversations. I'm like, luckily we're both just a little dumb enough to be willing to try something new, and that doesn't, our mind doesn't kick in and say, okay, what about this? What about that? It's like when we actually know, when we have that feeling of like, hey, I'm just gonna go all in on this, and it's always worked out for us, right? Because we have it. It's a reflection of us. It's really like our, the work ethic and everything. I think that's something massive for people to understand. It's like if it feels right internally, but it doesn't necessarily agree with your crap and your limitations and your financial situation, whatever it is. I was talking to a guy, Cole, he was on the podcast. He said the same exact thing. He's like, none of this makes sense. I didn't want to do that thing. I didn't even have the money for it, but I knew it was the right thing to do, so I made it happen. I sold things, I paid for the thing, and then now he's running like a $10 million company.
It's crazy. Like everything good in my life has been from like a crazy opportunity coming my way, but not necessarily being an opportunity, just like taking a leap and believing myself. And but on paper and logically, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's like, why am I doing this? Or like, what does this even mean? And people will call you crazy along the way and be like, oh no, don't do that. Play it safe, or oh, don't waste your money on that. That's my favorite one. It's like just because it's like feels intangible or not something that you can like comprehend with your mind. If your gut tells you you need to do it and you see other people getting the result you want, go all in.
Yeah, of course. That's the best way if you're looking for like mentors or coaches, or, even if you want to study email copywriting like Christian does, it's look for the person you think has the thing, right? And just listen to, if you want to be a really good email copywriter, go reach out to Christian and say, hey, what did because he's already been through all the ups and downs and he has the plan and the clear structure. Anybody with success, the best thing they're going to do is be able to give you a clear step-by-step process. And it's not necessarily going to agree with how you think it has to be done. Anybody who's had success, when they grow, it never agrees with how they think it has to be, right? But because if it did, they would already have the thing. The reason why we're making all these mistakes and we're stuck is because we're trying to do it our way. There's never like, I've never done anything my way because I do it somebody else's way until I learn that thing. And then I progress. And then to get to the next level, we have to kind of rinse and repeat. You have to start the process over again. So you're always able to, learn and progress and absorb new knowledge to just bring you further ahead. So it's like, another thing too with your success is, both of us, like, Kabbalah was a big part of my life and a big part of your life as well too. And that's another thing I saw you really commit to is, the Kabbalah program. It's 10 months long, and it's a spiritual structure. You can look at it as a spiritual framework or like a business model or, a fitness program. It's the same thing as a program, as a structure. Ultimately, Kabbalah is a way to progress consciously and organize your psyche and be able to receive more by clearing stuff out, doing the work. And I remember like when I was checking with you, I'm like, hey, like, how's it going? You're like, yeah, dude, I'm doing everything, doing all the homework, all the rituals, you're showing up, participating. And I think out of that group, I think you got some of the absolute best results. But then there are people in the group that put in very minimal effort. They got very minimal results. You know, I think it's because there's no magic pill. Like just showing up and getting information or whatever is not going to. It's applied knowledge is going to give you that actual understanding, and that's you're a really good example of that. Of like, okay, cool. There's this new thing. Let me just do it and do it and do it and do it, and then you got amazing results.
Even if it doesn't make sense at first, you're like, why am I doing this? But I don't know. I just feel better. That's all I know is I just feel better and better. And yeah, it's okay if you have an expectation that's not being met on how you think the process should go. Like just trust the process and put in the reps and it'll change a lot. Like for example, my entire family noticed how much I changed. I mean, not just like on a financial level, but all of a sudden I wasn't like trying to fight them anymore and trying in emotional turmoil. And they could just see this light coming from my eyes and love. And they're like, look, whatever you have, we want a piece of that too. And so my mom signed up for Kabbalah too. And she was in tears and she was lost and couldn't do it. But, she's been putting in the work every single day, like just studying and doing her practices. And now she's this shining star of the class. Like she's the only one putting in the work and she's glowing. And every day she's better and better. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think you said it too. It's like you felt better. That's really what it is, and that's why it's easy for a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs. They tend to get stuck in the logic. Like it has to, all the numbers have to make sense, right? So they try to solve. We have all this, all our problems, all our problems are not business problems or personal problems. It's the internal stuff that is sabotaging our well-being and sabotaging our you know ability to create and take action, right? So when we're doing this work, the spiritual work, it's I had somebody a week ago say, well, I want a really quantitative result. And it's like, I can give you quantitative results, but if you're looking for a one-to-one, you're going to limit yourself from getting like a 1 to 1,000. And that's something different that the spiritual path does, because you can take quantum leaps. It's, you think, oh, I just want to go to this next step. But like when you actually do the work and things shift, you kind of skyrocket, right? That's why you have these big leaps in success. And, ultimately, I focus on, I focus on a lot of guys, mostly men and entrepreneurs are my main group of people that work with me. And I was telling somebody actually this earlier, texting me, but I said, everything we do in life is for the feeling. All the business, all the experiences, all the money, all the things we're doing is to express and feel something, right? And that's why people get stuck, is we get hung up on the physical thing of that, right? Like, I need to buy this car, I need to hit $100,000 months to feel something. And it's like with the spiritual path, it flips it upside down. It's saying, no, you have to feel that thing and cultivate that energy so you're able to experience it, right? So like, if you want love and better relationships, okay, then you need to build your value, be of service, and cultivate the love first so you're able to share it. And through that sharing it is what draws it back into you. I know a lot of people in kind of the woke spiritual community, they sort of have an understanding of that. It's like what you put in the universe you attract. That's really what it is. It's not, it's as you show up, as you grow and strengthen yourself and you develop internally. And then you get to the experience that, right? So it's not like, I know a lot of people can look at you and say, oh, well, this guy has like the cool place and the super sick Subaru and the money and all this stuff, right? But if you go deeper than that, it's like, well, who did Christian have to become to get that? Because you're not really like you don't chase money. You're like not a money guy, right? It's all the hey, I became the thing, and now I get to experience it. It's very opposite of what most people would try to do. They would try to like, oh, I just need to put my head down and grind really hard and make money. And then they get there and they're still miserable because they're still empty inside.
Yeah, it was crazy actually. My philosophy was when I stopped like fixating on my money and focusing on really feeling it and being that person as well as helping other people make money, that's when my entire life transformed. And obviously you have to choose a vehicle that makes sense for that. But yeah, I mean, like for example, I felt like such a failure and a loser for all those years. And then when I met you, that just started like removing piece by piece of that. And then so when I started getting opportunities, I wasn't butchering it. Like I was showing up, like for example, to the sales calls. Like I got this simple recipe of practices from the classes I was taking, and I do them to set my,
Energy,
energy and
focus, yeah.
feeling and stuff before the calls. And then I'd knock it out of the park and people would be like, dang, you're just like glowing. And like, you have such a good vibe, man. And like people wanted to work with me. And then even though in the beginning I didn't have much, but it slowly started to build. And then it just became like an avalanche of, opportunity. Like I started working with Alex and they let her mosey through one of their acquisition clients, started working with Russell Brunson. I 10x'd my income in the entire time of Kabbalah and just started taking care of my grandma, paying her bills. Like I paid off all the debt. I bought a car cash. I just started living the life of my wildest dreams. But more importantly, all that stuff's great, but it was a product of me just being blasted with joy every day and loving my life. And
But I've seen how you really you work some crazy hours sometimes, because it's like you really give your all to your clients, right? And it's the same thing with, I think we were saying this before the call, right? It's like all this stuff is like, what does a spiritual path get you? It ultimately improves your relationship, right? It improves your relationship with yourself. So you get over the suffering, you kind of connect back to yourself. You connect to the divine, the spiritual realm. So you're able to use it as a power source and bring in that energy and that joy to then express that in your life. And through that, like you said, it's like deepen your relationship with your parents, your grandma, your friends, your clients, all that stuff, right? It all it all comes from like us empowering ourselves and us doing better. And then we get to experience it. It's like, yeah, then we get to, like you're saying, you get to like pay your grandma's bills and do that thing. It's like, how does that feel? That feels awesome, right? That's the genuine expression of like what we want. It's easy to say. I mean, I personally much rather, help family out than go buy some crazy thing or whatever, right? Because it's like that serves another person, that builds them up, that helps them progress and grow as an individual as well too, right? So it's like, yeah, really all this stuff, really success is two things. It's like how can you create what you want to create, but also like how many relationships can you serve, right? And that just becomes sick, as I don't know, it's like you're really good at that too. You move to a new place, you're super engaged in your community, and everyone supports you. But then like, yeah, it's reflected with your clients, and like you really go to bat with your clients and just like give every ounce of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing the same thing on a different level now. Like all my New Year's resolutions are related to the people I can impact, like from my social media or my communities and programs and stuff. And so, yeah, like the money just comes like when you work really hard and you just focus on service. But service is the main thing, and sometimes it arrives in unusual circumstances.
Yeah, remember. Well, another big step is remember with that back of the napkin plan.
But yeah,
Pretty proper, right? Yeah, that's a big thing I tell guys all the time. Is like you need to make more money is not just higher levels of service, and just the next level is always the next level of responsibility. And you can get, maybe a single guy with no employees, maybe you can get managed like $20,000 a month, right? I'm just using these, tangible numbers, but the next level is taking care of others, right? That's why when I wrote out that structure, I was writing like, hey, here's you, here's your team, here's how many people they can manage too, and it all goes up to the guy taking the most responsibility. And through that, it's like that experience has been cool to see as well too, because how you pour into your team and how you give them room to grow, and you'll hand off big clients and you'll be right next to them working really hard, and they're getting results and they're becoming better too. That's another thing. Service and leadership. It's like you step up to the next level of responsibility, you become more of a leader. People are more dependent on you, but you share all the good things that already helped you, and you build them up as well. So everybody, it's like everybody wins together.
so true. That has been the most valuable thing that you've taught me during our friendship and relationship, working relationship has been like the spiritual side of running a business, which sounds like kind of dumb to say. Like I have never really been a fan of like spiritual or energy type stuff, but like when you see it in real life and application and you can feel it, and then you also see the results from it, that's when you go, oh, okay, it clicks. It's my energy, or just like some random BS that someone around a campfire is saying. Like it's like, okay, if you take on a shitty client that's an energy vampire, they're going to screw up the energy of the entire team and drain them.
Oh yeah, I
Or
remember
like an
talking about
immoral
that.
client, etc.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, that was a
your energy too, like you would keep me mentally strong so that I wouldn't trickle down and like cause disruption,
yeah.
in
It's like
the
when you're learning spiritual teachings, it's kind of like what is the highest aspect of whatever we're trying to achieve, and like we look to God, and like I was, one of the cool parts about Kabbalah was like, oh, I'm like, oh, God, for me, I'm like, God's like a business owner. He has his team, because it's the same thing. He has a structure and hierarchy, and he has a plan, and there's to administer what he's doing. So when that clicked for me, I'm like, oh, I need to structure what I'm doing the same way and use those principles. And then, it's not, what you just said, it's like actually doing it and testing it out takes it from some woo spiritual weird, just like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. It's like mind candy, to like, I actually apply these principles and it actually worked. And I have the direct experience and the results. Now I know this is proof that it's actually working, you know?
So true. Cause yeah, I mean, we've all joined those spiritual communities where it's like you just don't understand what they're saying and it sounds like all ridiculous, and they probably don't even know what they're saying either. And so to have like a clear cut path and application and a clear logical response about everything has been so cool and has
Did I,
helped me out.
did I ever tell you the time right when I got into the spiritual stuff, everybody has their kind of like dipping their toes in and testing some things out. And one of the first spiritual groups I joined before I found the mystery school was, I'm not going to name who it was, but they told me, they're like, oh, if you come to our seminar, you can levitate. It's like when you're new to the spiritual stuff, you're trying to kind of get your grounding and figure out like what's true, what's not. And I'm like, okay, I was very open minded at the time. I'm like, can you show me like an example of this? And I don't know if I told you this, dude, this is hilarious. They showed me this thing where people are sitting on the ground crisscross and going across the room, flapping their knees off the ground, like bouncing forward. And it's called, if you look it up, it's called yogi flying. And they're like, yeah, they like levitate a few inches off the ground. I'm like, no, that's like, we already have bad knees. I'm going to destroy myself doing that. So anyway, I left that. And, yeah, it wasn't until I met my guide. Chris and I have the same guide, where I started, experience these healings and the teachings. And she was like, hey, you can learn this too. And then when I sat in class, it was like, it just made sense. It was like, okay, I kind of, like, it brings more clarity, and the clarity brings context. You can actually like see it for what it really is and utilize it. And yeah, there's a lot of misunderstanding, because people, if you say the word spiritual, it's very broad for people, and they can think anything from like festivals to drugs to whatever. But
Astrology.
there are, yeah, it's everything, right? Stuff they see on social media. There's sort of a lack of clarity around it. When you find like a true spiritual school, a mystery school, and a lineage, it's like, oh, this stuff's been around for thousands of years. It's been tested, and it works. And there's great examples. When I was younger, I was always like, well, how do like really successful people, like, they have to know something different. Like, what is it? Like, what do they tap into? And I met those people. It's kind of my inspiration. It's like I met those people, and I found these like very successful people that are very joyful and happy and have great lives that inspired me. They were tapping into, like, they were very spiritual. They were tapping into something different. And it's like, yeah, that's what you find. You eventually align. You kind of come out of the illusion and the chaos and suffering, and what gets you out of that is like more clarity, more actual principles that really work. Like you were saying, it's like it wasn't until you found a clear system with, you know, entrepreneurship and business and the spiritual path and all those things you're doing, that's when you start making success. Like, that's when you start getting success. Is like, before it's kind of like testing, trying, seeking, 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 and then eventually you find that thing, and that's the thing that really drives everything forward.
Yeah, because it like injected joy into me too. Like on a level I never could even comprehend. Like, I mean, I just can't stress enough. There's like a clear distinction of me before and after the classes. Like very, very clear. Like I look back my entire life, I'm like, okay, I had a good childhood, but I was miserable for no reason for a lot of it. And the crazy thing was, I didn't even know I was miserable until I wasn't miserable, because you just get used to it. You're just like, oh,
Yeah, you should use it. Yeah, just
you just know
sort
different
of,
levels of misery.
or just tend to like accept you, like, oh, I guess this is what life is, and you sort of. That's actually funny. I was talking to somebody about that. It's like once you overcome that suffering, you can feel the difference. You're like, oh, this is what joy is. This is what love is. All these things. And then it puts you, ultimately, what the spiritual path does is empowers you and puts you in the driver's seat. So you don't feel like life is just happening to you, right? You're actually, you're co-creating. You're saying like, hey, this is what I want. And there's a clear path to fulfill those things, right? It's sort of like,
And yeah, it's so much deeper than people understand as well. Like, sure, I've felt joy and happiness before when I was miserable, but there's different levels to it. Like, there's a fleeting feeling that enters you, which gives you a dopamine rush, and like you can call that joy or whatever. And then there's like pure vibrations like pulsing through your body and shooting out your eyes, and just love and like softness, and just you're like, whoa, like you feel like almost hit by a train. You're like, I feel so in love with everything. And
I
it's
think
hard to
it's like, well,
describe until you feel it.
I think it's a difference of like when people genuinely feel things. Like, if everybody knows like what joy feels like, or like that really, I think most people can, they've experienced, like, if you're in love, right? It's like you don't think you're in love, you just know you're in love. It's just a feeling. You're just like, oh, this is love, right? And the difference between that and like something that's fleeting, it's like, cool, I bought this like thing, I bought this car, I went to this event, and that was tons of fun. I'm happy, but then like what happens after? If you don't have that happiness inside you, then it crashes. So you feel like you're a constant like yo-yo effect, right? It's like up and down, up and down. And then what the spiritual path does, as you progress, you lock in that as your foundation. Those higher and higher energies becomes your new normal. It becomes your new basis of life. So when you're up here and you have joy and all this stuff, and these things happen, all the business issues are always like software and things breaking. It doesn't. It doesn't. You know, I hate that stuff, but it doesn't crash you down. It doesn't bring you back to that negative state. You don't have that. You want to maintain yourself up here, so you don't have that constant downward spiral or that constant like, oh, like when is this suffering ever going to end, right? You get to actually pick and choose really what you want to do and like how you want your day to go, because like, yeah, if you want, you have the tools to stay up there, just keep building more joy and have a deeper expression experience with life.
And it just gives you like a shield towards stuff coming at you business wise. Like, if some shit starts crashing down, like in your old stuff would have freaked the hell out and made it worse and like started berating the team or make, instead you have a clear set of, principles and practices to go by, and then you do it. And then you're like, okay, I'm extremely clear headed now and calm, and I know exactly what to do to solve this without emotion.
Yeah, right. It gives you because it's like when we're unclear, we become more emotional, and it's like if something happens, I've seen people sabotage over the tiniest things, right? Like there's a little issue there's a little issue with their team or something in their agency, and then they're like, oh, they blow it up because it becomes this emotional ball of chaos, and then it just stops them from actually taking action, doing the thing they need to do, right? It's like as soon as if we're up here and we're like, we know our strength, and these things happen, we're like, oh no, like whatever, I just gotta deal with that, no issue. And then you move forward and you progress so much faster because of that. What really slows people down is like you're saying, it's like it slows people down or stops them from taking the correct action is the emotion and all the chaos that they tend to hold on to. And yeah, it's like I think you said it a little bit ago, but the energy healings and stuff is to like it's to give you a new higher energy to come in and like clear all the junk that we're holding on to, wipe that away, so you're able to receive the better stuff. You're able to receive the higher energies, the more pure energy, the joy, the love, all that stuff. And then you take that energy and you put it out in the world. You take action, then your life becomes a reflection of that. It's like
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I've like done a lot of healings, and I would be up to my eyeballs in notifications and like couldn't bear the thought of even like taking an hour for a healing, but like I'll force myself to do it. And I'll go in there pissed off as hell about like something business related. Then I'll come out just like glowing, clear, and calm, and can just like feeling like my body pulsing almost. And then I can just get on my phone and just like quickly solve it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not letting that shit hold me down anymore. Then that's how you climb the new levels, because
yeah,
that's
it's a
not
cool
an
thing
issue.
too. Yeah, like how you said, that gives you clarity, right? It's just because when we're stuck because we don't know what's next, right? So we either need to ask somebody for the next step, and we have to be open to receive that too. Is because when we're think of somebody who's very angry and or they're very angry, they're very clouded and anxious or something. You're trying to help that person, give them advice. They're not receptive to that. They're not able to hear that because they have all that crap inside them. It's not until they're more open and clear and peaceful than they're able to receive that. It's the same thing like you were just saying after a session is it clears all that crap out. So you're like, oh, the solution was right there. I just was like, I was too focused on the wrong stuff and I couldn't see it. And
Yeah.
and I like what you said again too about like prioritizing that stuff, because it's very easy to wake up and say, hey, I got a to-do list and I got to check off all these things on the box, and that's going to drive success. But it's like it's backwards. It's like prioritizing your own health and your own spiritual development. That cultivates, like we keep saying, that cultivates that thing to go into the physical world and knock all those things out and make it, a lot more efficient. But it feels if
Yeah.
there's always resistance there of like we're so used to doing things a certain way and like, oh, I don't want to meditate. I don't want to do this thing that's good for me. I don't, because it's like, we're so drawn into the immediate stuff. But it's like once we actually get over our crap and actually prioritize that stuff, like you just said, you're like, oh, that just, it's like poof. And it helps, way, way more.
It's important to note that I've tried a lot of quote unquote spiritual stuff like meditation camps, self improvement stuff like Tony Robbins, etc., which is all great. There's still a layer that just doesn't go quite as deep. And you can't comprehend it until you feel it yourself. And so when I got connected to a lineage that is super like old and long and like has been building up, the power for a
Yeah, for
long
thousands
period
of
of time,
years.
thousands of years. When you get the practices and feel that power, clear difference. It's not like, oh, I feel more peaceful after it, I guess. I mean, it can be that way in the beginning, but the longer you do it, the more you start feeling like, whoa, I've never felt this way in my life. I can feel this way all the time.
That's a cool thing. I think the difference is because a lot of people they're reading books, they're going to seminars, they're doing all these things, and they're like, okay, I felt good while I was doing that. It lasted for maybe like a week, and then they feel like a slight elevation, then they come back to where they already were before that. So that's why they're on that kind of hamster wheel of life, on that yo-yo, the ups and downs, ups and downs. And the big reason is the spiritual path empowers you. It brings everything back to you. How can we build the best, strongest you? How can we give you all the tools to be clear, to be discerning, to know your next step, to get over your stuff, to progress faster, to overcome all the negativity and all the crap that's holding you back? And that's the key difference. All these people are talking about self-improvement online. They're missing that because it's, it's like you are the creator of your life. So it like has to give you, it can't just be pure information. A lot of these seminars are just like how to shift your mindset, this, that, whatever. But if you don't feel worthy of that, if you don't feel like you are the thing, deep down inside you're just lying to yourself. So you won't be able to actually receive that thing. Anything we anything we're able to receive is because we earned it. We build ourselves up to that vibrational level, up to that thing. We become the thing first, and then we receive the thing. We can't just like there's no all these funnels and stuff. There's no one secret. There's the secret's like the magic pill is like you're the magic pill. That's the only secret. So it's like yeah, it's like no, actually the scene from the Matrix, it's like when he's in the kitchen, she goes, the one is like being in love. You don't think you're the one, you just know it through and through. And that's the same thing with the spiritual path. It's like if you want to become the thing, you'll just when you get there, you'll just feel it through and through and be like, yes, this is who I am. It's like people say affirmations and I am and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I am this, and that's why I'm experiencing it. So that's actually a good point because he asked her, he goes, am I the one? And then I think he said like, no, I'm not. She's basically like basically what she's saying, she's like, I'm not the one to tell you you're the one. You're like, you have to develop that yourself. If you want to be the one, that is your path, that's your challenge, and you have to build yourself to that thing. Like obviously towards the end of the movie, he's able to like Morpheus says, he's not dodging bullets. He's like, he said like eventually he's like, you won't have to dodge bullets, and then that's the last scene of the first movie. Yeah, the Matrix is that's one. Yeah, right. I mean, the Matrix is cool. It's because it's like there's so many truths in that movie, right? And it's like it's a whole movie of becoming. He's self-actualizing. He's becoming his highest self, and it's a very dramatized, like it's a movie, obviously, right? But there's so many lessons in there, and pulling him out of the illusion, right? When he gives him the red and black, the red and blue pill, it's like, hey, do you want to stay blue pill? You can go back to your job where you're stuck, and kind of just like, okay, have a decent life, like whatever, and just be stuck in the illusion and confusion. Or like, hey, he's like, what does he say? He's like, the only thing I'm offering you is the truth, right? And the truth is, you know what I mean? It's like the truth is like you're at the center of what you're creating. It's like you're the one that's gonna you're the one that's gonna ultimately come in and save you. And there's gonna be people to assist you. That's the job of Morpheus. Can be looked at as a guide, right? A guide is there to open the door. I have on my website. There's a portal on there because it's like that is what stepping into a spiritual path is doing. It's like that, right? It's like stepping out of the illusion and stuff and stepping into truth and empowerment. And it's like when you're able to create based off reality, you move forward a lot faster.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. For me, taking the red pill was realizing I don't
This is going to turn
fucking
into a
give
Matrix podcast. Perfect. I like it. Let's keep going. No, I like it. I think it's
Man,
cool.
you and I both love that movie, and we actually don't talk about that movie that often, so it's cool we're doing it now.
Yeah. What was your red pill?
Oh man, just realizing I that there's so much more to life. And for me, the red pill was not denying universal truths, and then recognizing that they're true, first of all. And second, when you know like the laws and like how to work with them and not go against them, then everything becomes easier. You're happier, you're full of joy, like opportunities come your way. It's so much more than The Secret. Like that's a really good start, but this is like nothing related to that. I mean, they're like similar, but actually what I learned was nothing like it at all, but it coincides perfectly.
I think that's a good thing because it's like truth is like what actually works, what actually gets you the real results. And that's the same thing with the path of an entrepreneur is like we play around in illusion until we find the truth, like a clear path or system that actually works. Then we start making the money. Then we start doing all the actual things, you know. But before then, like you said, it's like, yeah, the secret. There's certain things that help people progress. They get a piece, they get a piece, they get a piece. But it's not until it all comes together, like a clear system, then you can actually utilize it all of it. Because a lot of people get hung up on like, oh, they have one piece of the jigsaw puzzle and it's like they try to force that one thing to be the whole thing. It's like they try to do yoga, they try to do breath work, they try to do ice baths or whatever, right? And those are all tools, but you need like to really it's like going to war, right? If you want to go to war, what do you want to have? You want to have one tool, like, or do you want to have a whole artillery and a team and a community to really help you push forward? You know, so
So true.
yeah, you're not gonna solve all your problems by just breathing a million times a day. You
Yeah,
know,
or
jumping in an
working
ice
out
bath.
like Wes Watson.
Yeah, but you're not like jumping in an ice bath every day. It's like, yeah, it helps you, it supports you, but then like you have to keep moving forward and do the thing. Yeah, and people hyperfixate on it. It's like anything's great. Like working out's amazing. I work out almost every single day, but like if I work out too much, then what? I'm sort of just distracting myself. I'm pulling myself away from what's actually important. You know,
Exactly. And you and I both do all the stuff. And before we found this path, we've been doing affirmations for years, to ice baths and stuff. And not to discredit all that because it is really helpful, but this is so much deeper because
it's not
affirmations
the
for
end
me,
all
even
be
when
all.
I exactly when I like felt it and like did my best, having these practices from the subconscious, I mean from the conscious to the subconscious, like applying that same principle, like, saying an affirmation. Okay, I'm just going to say it until I believe it. I'm just going to say it until it seeps in my subconscious. Like that takes forever. And it like didn't work for me. I did it every day for years. I mean, I still felt like crap and I still self sabotaged and I still, and it was until I got to the root of the problem and dug it out and literally pulled it from my body, then and only then was I open for more.
Yeah, that's what people are missing. It's the energetic part of it. They think they can saying something doesn't necessarily mean you're the thing. The energy, like what I was saying, like when you know something, you feel it, you experience it firsthand. It's like, how do you know? You know, I use an example. It's like, well, you can watch a sport and know all the players, know all the moves and all that stuff, but you don't actually have the thing until you do it. And what the energy does, the energy healing, the initiation, the spiritual path, it gives you, you know, you're here and you want to go here. It gives you the energy of the next level. It infuses you with that energy so you can actually feel it and it opens your consciousness up and you go, ah, you have all these aha moments. And with that, it elevates you to the next level and you actually integrate that energy. Each level is different energy. So you have to take the higher energy. It's sort of like, this is why the Matrix is so good. When he's learning like karate, when they have him plugged in and he's downloading all those things, it's the same thing. The spiritual path is every level is like a new download to upgrade your software, upgrade who you are, and that energy gives you a direct experience, and it's like your life becomes like a hologram to learn. It's like a holographic classroom. So it's like it's not just like actually perfect book. I just got another one of these today because I keep giving these away.
Banger.
It's not like okay, these are all the hermetic principles, right? So it's not like okay, oh, perfect, the all. So it's not like reading this principle and like, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. It's like you actually experience the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
It's
funny. I'll open that
completely
page.
different, dude. I wish the English language had better words to describe this entire process. I mean, for right now, we just have the ones we're using, which are pretty
I mean, it's
just
alchemical,
yeah.
right? Alchemical is alchemy. When somebody's thinking about alchemy, it's how do you take something from a lower state and purify it and perfect it, right? And you have Da Vinci, you have the Adam Kadmon, the guy that perfected man. That's what we're trying to that's what we're trying to do ultimately is not be perfect, but we're trying to continuously perfect, right? How can I take care of myself more? How can I help more people? How can I improve my business and my serving and my quality of life and the quality of what I'm offering? That ultimately raises the state of everything. So it's not like, we don't have to be perfect. I know that can be a big thing for people, right? But it's like, just do the 1% every single day. Can you, and it all takes, it's all our energetic result. It all takes more energy. If you want more money, you need to be willing to invest more energy. You need to be willing to sacrifice the things that are depleting your energy, that are pouring your energy away, distracting you. Back to the Matrix, it's like the red dress. It's like we're focused on all this other stuff that doesn't it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't actually move us forward. We're just kind of like entertaining ourselves. We're like, oh, cool, that looks cool, but it's distracting us from the reality, like the real thing that's actually going to help us. You know. Let me see
Yeah.
how many more Matrix things I can say.
References, yeah, man. Unlimited, probably. Here's
The
the
guy.
kicker for me.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm looking at more
So here's
Matrix
the kicker
things.
for me. Whenever I would join like these self-help groups with like spiritual people, it's like you dig into their life and it's all fucked up. Like they're like borderline drug addicts. They're like borderline homeless, and not all, but a lot. It's like, or they're not. Their lives are in shambles, or not where you want to be. That's a blanket statement, but that's a lot of them. True, and they're like, oh no, breathwork, meditation, ice baths, and that's all great, but they're all like constantly ruminating on the problems and shrouding it under like self help and like you know trauma relief and stuff. And it's like, no, just like I felt like discovering this path was like cutting the bullshit, taking the BS out of this process and showing me the way. Because like when you look, our guides in the eyes, you realize that like they are different. You're just like, you just have a sparkle to their eye. You're like, what? Like, how are you so happy? And like, I thought it was weird at first because I'm like, how are these people so happy? But it's just so beautiful at the end of the
That's so
day. So
funny
the
that
proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like when you're negative and you come across a very happy, joyful person, you feel resistance because it's not like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's because you're like, how can you be so happy? And you think there's like almost something wrong with them, but it's like those people did the work to overcome their suffering and like all their crap. And yeah, I remember like when I started the spiritual path, like I didn't want to hug anybody, and all these people were like hugging me and stuff, and I'm like, it felt really weird, dude. And but that's what they're trying to like share love, right? They want to connect, and it's like, and then eventually, like, I hug everybody. But it's funny too. It's like in the beginning of the life activation, you start with a hug, and it's interesting to see how people are very like closed off, but then at the end of it, they're like, I feel good. Their state of being shifts, and then like something's different. It's funny too. The number one issue in the world is it's not the matrix, the government, all this stuff. It's all a spiritual problem. People are so spiritually disconnected. They're disconnected themselves or disconnected to the divine. And that's why they kind of like hide away and they close off. I would say to anybody, like, notice when you walk down the street how people won't look into you in the eyes. They'll put their head down. They'll look away, or just try to feel into those people and be like, see if they're full of light and joy, or feel if they feel empty. And unfortunately, a lot of people like, I purposely do this when I'm walking down a sidewalk and I see somebody coming near me. I'll smile, I'll compliment that, I'll do some, I'll just give them some type of encouragement or just be a nice person. And some people are really receptive to that and they like light up and smile, or some people just like they really don't like it. And it's unfortunate, but it's like if you want to if you want to fix the world, you got to fix yourself, and then you have to be able to help other people as well, right? All this other stuff, and that you see on the news and social media, all this excitement around all this stuff, that's all a distraction. The real issue is a people issue, and just how they see themselves, their progression and moving them forward, right? That's unfortunate. A lot of people are stuck in suffering and they don't really know a way out. So if you can be one of those people to step up and handle your own stuff and contribute more to the world, that's what I focus on in my group, Leaders Academy, is people who want to do that, people who have that they want to own up and take responsibility for their stuff, so they're able to contribute more to the community, use their business as a tool to serve more people, and through that, everybody just does better together.
That's so badass. Yeah. A community is everything, especially if people on the same journey, because then together you make each other stronger.
Yeah, we met through community. I mean, that's why CA and all the email guys, right? That was a community. Like, luckily somebody else, but if the two guys that are running CA, it's like if they didn't build that, like, would we have met? I don't know. So it's like it's super cool. It's super cool to see, like, hey, because of those guys, like they didn't have to build a group, right? It's because they did something. They created an environment and group of people that come together, and those people start mingling and serving each other, and like, so many things come out of that, right? But it's like it all starts with a person who wants to step up and take responsibility and build the thing, even if it's tough, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it doesn't make sense financially just yet. If you want to see the change, you have to be the change. In today's world, that's not the easiest thing because it's like it's easy to default to the vices and negativity and opinions and talk bad about people. It's hard to, when we're tired, we're low energy. It's so much easier to slip back into the vices and things like, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow, whatever. Like, it takes more energy to do something good. It takes more resilience and perseverance to do the good things. Then eventually that becomes normal, but it's not just going to land in your lap and happen for you.
Man, yeah. I mean, dude, let me just say, like, I am so, so incredibly grateful that you found me and you showed me this path. Cause, like, if it wasn't for that community I joined and for meeting you, like, I'm just terrified what would have been my life. Like,
But you did all the
I,
work, though. That's the thing. That's the biggest thing I've been saying this whole time. It's like you followed your gut. You made the sacrifices. Nothing you did made sense, dude. You drove cross country in a beat up old van. You sacrificed. You put things on credit cards. You sacrificed everything, and then it just worked because it's like there was something beyond your mind and your fear and your limitations that was guiding you. And it's like, yeah, you could still show up and like, but if you don't do the thing, and that's why it's like that's what separates people who have and don't have. It's like you did the thing literally to a T, and you got all the results. You got all the fruits of it. You got the juice of it. The person who has the thing that doesn't really squeeze it, take advantage of it, it's just like anything else. That's the big difference.
yeah, so true. I mean, if anybody out is like listening to this and they're wondering like if there's more to life than what they currently have, like I definitely recommend that you just continue to dig deeper, and just ask yourself questions and just be open to opportunities that come your way. And even if it doesn't make sense logically, to just, if it feels good in your gut, just like trust yourself and, you know, take your power back and believe in yourself and freaking go for it. Doesn't matter what level you're at, if you're making 8, 9 figures or just getting started.
Yeah, even then, it's like when we both have a lot of really successful entrepreneurs, and my favorite question to ask somebody is like, then what? Like, what's next? Then what? And some people are like, I don't know. They have all the money, they have all the cars, they have all the things, they have all the like the mundane matrix success, and there's always more. There's always a deeper aspect of joy, of life, of experience that goes beyond what you can experience now. It's like, you know, it never ends. That's the thing. But it's not about eventually as you progress, it's you've mastered the physical realms. Maybe guys listening has made millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, whatever it is, and he's listening to this and thinking he's like, well, I already have everything, and he feels kind of stuck. It's like, what's next? There's always a next level. And it's not so much, it's always developing more of the virtues and the essence of that thing. It's not so much more physical things. Yes, if you love cars, buy cars. If that's your joy, express yourself, buy all those things. Do the expressions of like what you want to enjoy. But, there's just higher and higher realms of consciousness and awareness that go far beyond just what we can see, just this 3D reality here. And with that, you're able to connect to higher and higher levels of consciousness and bring those higher energies into this world. And then you see everything kind of lift up together, right? But if we're just pulling from the, quote unquote matrix, if we're just pulling from the matrix and we're like, oh, everybody has to be rich and have like 40 cars and like mansions and travel all the time and jet and this and that. It's like, okay, well then you're going to be stuck because then there's nothing else you're going to go to a point where there's nothing else to buy. Then what? You know, then those things, you know what I mean? So it's like
And
find the inner joy, continuously build, and see how you can infuse that into life, and deepen your relationships, deepen your understanding of yourself, deepen your creativity, or align more with your purpose. Because a lot of people are successful, but they're not really fulfilling their purpose. These are all different things to achieve.
yeah, and even if, for me personally, I didn't understand a lot of the words you were saying for the first like year and a half. They were kind
What
of
the hell is
going
this guy?
in one ear and out the other. I was just like, it sounds so abstract and so hard to comprehend. But the more we talk about it, or the more we did talk about it and the more I hear about it from you, the more it makes sense. And then especially once I finally felt it for myself, then it all clicks. Oh, wow. I'm so glad I trusted you before this because it sounded like so, like, you know, I couldn't even comprehend what you were saying, but I just trusted and
Yeah.
then it all made
But
sense
that's
to
what
me.
it is. It's like it's the two things. It's trust. Find the person who has the thing you want. Trust them, even if it doesn't agree with you. Just go all in. Trust them because I understand. Like it's scary. I get it, right? Because it contradicts everything we thought was like normal or what we were supposed to do. It's all the things we're trying to do. So it's like, yeah, find the person that you trust that has the thing you want. Ask them for help. Follow the thing. Like we said before, it's like you were saying a lot of things, but I didn't really know until I felt it. Eventually, it just clicked and it integrated. And you're like, oh, and now you have that thing, and now you can experience that thing. But that's normal. It's like it does take a little bit of time to for that thing to fully land because we're preparing. Until that thing lands, it's all we're preparing. And I don't know if Alex Ramosi talks about this, but that's where faith comes in. It's like knowing you're moving in the right direction, doing the things day in, day out, the consistency, even if you're not getting immediate results. That can be very off putting. And somebody's like, oh, like, when is this ever going to work? And then eventually, preparation meets opportunity. It just boom, it lands in your life. You get that next level. So
Yeah.
yeah, anybody who's going through it right now that thinks like, hey, when is this ever going to work? Just, it's super basic, but yeah, it's literally keep going. As long as you feel like that's the right thing to do more of it.
And don't wait to do it. Like, everything on paper looked wrong for me to get started. Every blockage you could possibly imagine was in my way. Like, I was at 40K in debt. A lot of it was credit cards. I had to either choose between buying a bed to sleep in or investing in my first class. And I chose the class. Then somebody gave me a bed, so it didn't really matter. And then I got a raise with my job, and then I started my own business, and just it blew off. So,
Yeah, it's like
I mean,
once you commit to that thing, a lot of people will say we all have $1 million ideas, like, oh, this is amazing, I'll be rich. Okay, well, why don't you do it, right? It's because you're not committing and taking the action to do at least the first step. And that's why rational beat logic, because the logic would say, oh, I only have this much money, I'm going to buy a bed, and like, okay, I'm going to do these things. And that's a very slow pace, right? But your feeling was like, hey, I'm just going to do this class. Then magically, all these other opportunities started converging, coming in. Like once you did the thing, all the other things started coming in as well, manifested even faster, right? So it's like it doesn't have to be that straightforward logical path.
and I had the time excuse too, because right when I met you, I started a new job and career where I worked every single day for 531 days straight. And so while working every day, I did the spiritual work every single day for 531 days straight. And it fucking transformed my life. Like, everything on paper looked fucked up. Like, don't do this. Like, don't overwhelm yourself. But I did it anyway. I forced myself through it. Was it easy? No. But now I have everything I've ever wanted. I'm so freaking happy.
Yeah, right. It's like the repetition. So people won't see that. Right? I think Alex Hormozy again, he says the same thing. He's like, most people don't realize the actual number of repetitions something takes. Right? Like 500 plus days is like insane. Most people won't do like 20 days. They're like, yeah, I tried it, didn't really work. It's like, I don't know. Then they'll jump to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Then they'll look back and be like, oh, like nothing's working. It must be the thing. It's like, no, it must be you. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I think that's people now expect results like right away. They're like, oh, I want to get into e-commerce or trading or this or that. We were talking about that even with the email stuff, right? Like none of this stuff. The biggest scam with like the online entrepreneur space is the word passive. Because they sold it as like, oh, make passive income, so it made people lazy. And they said, oh, if I only put like a little bit of time in, I'm gonna make another 10 grand a month and travel the world and do all these things. It's like, no, anybody. We were talking about the guys that you just did the event with. Was that in Arizona? The one you just came from recently?
Nashville, huge
Nashville,
guys.
right? But all those guys, like, in whatever our conversation, I was like, those guys have a different feel to them because they've put in the work, they've earned where they are, right? There's a different level of integrity with those guys. Like, yeah, if anybody tries to sell you the quick and easy, the magic pill or whatever, just completely run away from them because going back before, it's like if you're the magic pill, if you're not willing to put in like the work and actually build it to something, yeah, you might make a couple grand here and there and whatever, but it's never really going to give you that everlasting peace that you actually want. Right? It's just all going to be. It's another fleeting thing. Sorry to all the course sellers trying to sell passive. Be lazy, make money, but it's just that's not true. It just doesn't work. It's a pipe dream. It sounds nice. It's very attractive. That's why they sell it. And then how many of those people actually have success? None.
So yeah, I
Just write a
mean,
book.
with
We should
all
write a book called like the 24-hour workday. No.
manipulating time.
Yeah, time. Yeah, use your time right. No, I mean you can have a 4-hour work, but you can do a 4-hour work week makes sense after you've put in plenty of time before that, built the systems, built the structure, took the responsibility, build the team, have something of actual value to give to your relationships and your clients. Then you can do all these things and have the 4-hour work week if you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the same process with entrepreneurship, just now to apply it to your happiness and joy and energy, and everything will change.
Yeah, so you need a plan for business. You need a plan for business. You need a plan for your health, and you need a plan for your spiritual well-being. And the priority is the spiritual realms. The energy creates everything in the physical. So don't you think the priority should be the spiritual, building yourself, cultivating that energy, and then you get to bring it into everything you're doing here. It just makes it way better.
Yeah, I'll admit the beginning, the goal of all this was just to make more money because I saw a lot of people on the path like very successful and I wanted that. But then it became so much deeper. It was like I've seen a lot of my friends, especially the ones I work with now, like big guys doing 9 figures. They're making tons of money, but when it
It's
comes
not about
down
them
to it, they're
anymore.
still suffering.
Well, I don't know if they're necessarily suffering, but like step one is like getting us solid and empowered and like filling our cup, right? It's like because if we're not solid, it's like we can't. If we're weak, we can't help anybody anyway. We can't be of service to the world. So it's like step one is like figuring out our own stuff and becoming empowered and solid, so we can move forward. In every level, like I was saying, to have more success, more power is more responsibility. So the guys that you see in these big, massive businesses, they're managing teams of 100, 200, 300, 400 people. They're taking the responsibility for that, right? And so the difference between like step one, taking care of ourselves, and step two is taking care of other people. And that can be, you can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself, right? If your health is off, if your mind is off, if your spirit is off, all these things, you're not going to be able to take care of those other people. So if you are stuck at level one and you're thinking, what's next? You know, find a mentor, find a spiritual path, find a business mentor, take care of your health, go to the gym. Those are starting points. And then through that, you'll open yourself up to those greater potentials.
Big facts.
I was thinking about
So
Matrix. Should I leave another Matrix reference? Oh, the steak. Don't sell yourself for the illusion. A lot of people are selling themselves for the illusion. They know that, what is it? I know the steak is this isn't real steak, but it tastes so good, and I don't care.
yeah,
Yeah, don't
exactly.
get
That guy who was going to sell out his friends like for a fake
yeah.
steak.
Yeah, it's like the story of like Judas and Jesus selling them out for
Oh,
fame or success. That's what it is. That's the story.
good point. Oh my God, that's the
Yeah, that's the
craziest part
whole
in the movie.
the story of Jesus can look at the story of the Matrix can be looked at as a story of Jesus and like self actualization and becoming a thing and fulfilling the mission. That's why they have those like more biblical things kind of dropped into the Matrix. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
like
yeah,
the
if you
cocaine
know,
hookers version.
yeah, don't take the quick and easy. Don't say, oh, I know this isn't the best thing for me, but it checks a box. Oh, it does this thing short term. Anything short term. I was saying this on an Instagram story the other day. It's like, how do you know a good way to indicate between good or bad is, do I have to justify it? Say, oh, I'm going to do this thing, but the but's probably, okay, it's bad. Does it build you long term or short term? If it builds you short term, it's not worth it. Long term is always better. Yeah, it's like, what are the results, right? So, you know, before we sign off, what do you want to leave the people? I'd say two things: somebody who's starting out and somebody who's already kind of in motion. What would you tell those two people?
Well, this line of advice applies to both, and it's to follow your freaking heart and your gut. You know, it already knows. Even if your brain says no, but your body, every cell in your body says yes, or even maybe not every cell, maybe just part of you, and you're just like curious and like don't let that go. Don't let that thought go and just brush it off and be like, nah, I'm good without it. Like, because it's scary to think what my life would be like without, just saying yes to stuff, watching that movie Yes Man. And like watching the life of my wildest dreams unfold, and most importantly, being filled with joy and happiness. And then to the point where my entire family noticed, and they're like, "Yes, we want in. We can't believe that you're not like angry or emotional with us or having problems with us or and your finances just blew off, you know?" So just be the
That's
change you want to be in the world, and it starts with this.
Yeah, if you want to influence people, it's not about telling people. A lot of people have opinions and oh, the world should do this or should that, and they don't want to take responsibility. It's like if you really truly want to influence somebody, you have to be the version of that thing and show them the thing. Then they'll ask questions, and then you'll be able to help them. But being the angry, bitter person that doesn't actually have results and just wants to like point fingers and talk bad about people and like government, social media, and friends and like community, it's just negative. It just doesn't serve anybody's growth. Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate having you on. What do you want to leave the people? I know you have you have an awesome email copywriting group. You have your course coming sometime this year.
Well, yeah. So if you are a business owner with an email list, or if you're aspiring copywriter or email marketer, I have a free email course at freeemailcourse.io. Go ahead and check it out. Also, let's connect on social media. I love making new friends and meeting people. So my handle is at Christian the Copywriter on all platforms.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, check them out. Hi, man. Appreciate it.
Guys, peace.